Hello world, it's Lee Kelson coming to you live from Hong Kong at Start Me Up Hong Kong Festival 2019, and I'm here with one of the speakers that's just come off stage, I believe. David Bell from Idea Farm Ventures. How are you, David?
Very well, Lee. Thanks a lot. Good to chat.
So you were just telling me that you were 20 years in academia as a professor.
Yeah, I was 20 years at the Wharton School in University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, and now full-time as an investor based out in New York City.
Right.
Yeah.
And so how was the transition from academia into venture capital?
It was actually quite a smooth and easy transition in some sense, because about 10 years ago, I started focusing all my research, my teaching and everything else around these early stage companies. And then some of the founders I might have met through the student environment, they graduate, they get back in touch and maybe invest a small amount of money into the companies with my co-founder. So yeah, it was actually some sort of a natural progression. It took about 10 years to get there, but it wasn't too much of an abrupt cut. Yeah.
And you're from our sort of part of the world.
Yes,
I'm from Australia. You're from New Zealand. Anything that's good out of New Zealand, Australia claim it as their own anyway.
Yeah, I have noticed that. Yeah,
I've noticed that.
A crowded house would be one of them. So
that would be one.
We should claim AC/DC. Maybe it was too old for the audience, but that's.
Maybe you should. So tell me, what does Idea Farm Ventures focus on?
Yeah, so we focus on early stage consumer and retail companies, and what we call companies that have like a millennial resonant focus. So what does that mean? That means a brand like an Allbirds shoes or a Warby Parker glasses, a company that's really trying to create a better product at a better price point with a great customer experience, and oftentimes doing that through the channel of the internet first, not necessarily, but those are the kind of things we're interested in. And if you look at the world, there's a lot of legacy stuff, from your shampoo to your chair in your house to your razor to your sheets, that are all overpriced, poor quality, and just frankly not very fun to buy. So all of that stuff we think is up for grabs to be redone.
What about millennial-focused media companies? You interested in them?
Well, we could be. I mean, we've sort of kept ourselves pretty more. I mean, we certainly engage with those companies to reach our brands.
Yeah.
I'd say we invest more in the physical brands, or we invest in service companies like, a company, we're not investors in this, but a company like a Dry Bar that, blows out your hair, or Heyday that does facials. So the same kind of idea, but being very focused and very deep in a certain service. So media is not something we really have expertise in per se, other than really being a consumer of media.
I was gonna say, either do we. But we try hard. And so your talk today, what was the focus of your talk today?
So really three things. So one was just giving a bit of an articulation of who is this new global millennial consumer, what's their economic footprint, and more importantly, what's their psychographic, what are they looking for, how do they think? That was the first bit. Second bit is something I'm calling the BOSS model, which is a bit of a corny acronym, but it's how do you be successful in this environment? And the first piece is about bonding, not branding. So Dollar Shave Club, you feel something when you watch that video and you love the product, and there's a bond that you have with Michael Dubin, whereas Gillette's just like a name on a box, that's a brand. So sort of going into the playbook. And then the third piece was just discussing with the audience, what are the kinds of brands we invest in, what are the three formats, one of which are these direct-to-consumer brands, but there's two others as well. So
what are those things?
So the three are, first of all, the DNVB. So there's a guy who started a company called Bonobos, men's apparel. He coined the term the digital native vertical brand. So a brand that's basically born on the internet. Allbirds shoes, Harry's razors, Warby Parker glasses. The second two formats is one we call the ELCB, experiential location-centric brand. So that's usually a service business born in a box. So don't go to the gym, go to SoulCycle. Don't go to the barber, go to Dry Bar. Don't go to the spa for a facial, go to Heyday. So very focused on high-quality single service. And the third one is what we call the authentic wholesale-led brand. So it's a brand that kind of starts its life in the wholesale channel, but it has a different point of view. It's more authentic. It's just far better. Like Halo Top ice cream. Right. Two lawyers from LA. It's a $2 billion brand, number one ice cream in America. So, but it was born just in traditional kind of stores.
Right.
So those are the three. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And so how big's the portfolio that you're managing now?
So we've just finished our first capital raise. The plan is over the next 4 years to either build or invest behind 30 companies. Roughly 4 or 5 will do in-house. The balance of those will be companies that someone like yourself or someone started that we'll get alongside and we'll help support. And we only do that at the earliest of stages. So we've made a few different investments so far, and we're just starting to deploy the capital. So.
And so you focus on millennial, but what about the Gen Z? What about these ones?
The Gen Z, sure. No, we very think a lot about the Gen Zs or the Gen Zennials too. And I think the really cool thing there, Lee, is it's like it's more of a psychographic or a mindset. So, one of the jokes we have at the office at Idea Farm is that probably the most millennial person we know is my co-founder Jam's father. He's about 70, but he owns Allbirds shoes. He sleeps on Casper mattresses. So it's more the psychographic. The demographic's important, but it's more the mindset of what do you want your consumption experiences to be like.
Yeah. And you mentioned social media. How important in terms of brand and getting brand out there is social media?
100%, absolutely critical. So that whole idea of bonding is, you cannot live or survive unless you have like shareable content in an incredible community. So if you look at in the luggage space, or it's more travel, but Away is a digitally native vertical brand. Initial product's a suitcase. The content and the community that they've created is amazing. Or like Emily Weiss, who founded Glossier, started out as a blog, into the gloss.
Yep.
So there are some companies now where the content might actually come first in building that community, and then the product gets overlaid into it. So that's absolutely one of the most critical things about the playbook, for sure.
So an interesting observation I've had is that a lot of the brands that see social media as being very important, but they're taking traditional thinking, traditional media, and moving it onto social media rather than doing social media.
Right. So it's sort of interesting. I hope I'm not going to not misanswer your question, but I think even some traditional media is making a bit of a comeback. So I'd say like Bonobos, which was this men's clothing brand, one of their most successful acquisition tools was actually catalogs that they'd ship into your home. Radio can be really effective for some brands, like Tommy John is an authentic t-shirt underwear brand out of New York, does a ton of stuff on Sirius XM. So I think what people are realizing, for certain kinds of communications, you can take those traditional things and actually be very effective, and then of course give them a second life by repurposing them through social as well.
Yeah. So again, back in the late 1990s, we saw advertising. I come sort of out of an advertising media industry, and there was this sort of, we've got a captive audience on TV and we interrupt them with commercials.
Yes.
So now we've got the web. So what do we do? Oh, we'll just do the same thing. We'll interrupt them, right? And we had pop-ups, right?
Right.
I have to take some responsibility for that because I was involved in a company that was doing that.
Yeah.
But I see the same thing sort of happening now with social media.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because I think what's happening now too is even channels like Instagram and Facebook, you're getting sponsored ads. So I think, and I think for some customers there is sort of an annoyance factor to that. You would hope that as the technology and the targeting gets better, that because the ads that you actually see are so personalized and so customized that you almost welcome them. Like you wouldn't want to turn off, even if you could, you wouldn't want to turn off the ad stream on your Instagram feed because you'd be concerned that you might miss stuff that's actually really relevant. So I think in the best of all case scenarios, the ad content is actually super relevant and it's not intrusive. It's more like, as one of my buddies would say, it's more like a butler, not a stalker. When you're getting into the stalker territory, then it becomes intrusive and annoying and people tune it out.
Yeah. And so the sort of companies, if there's people out there that have got a product or they're interested, so what would be the criteria that you would say to them come and talk to us?
Sure. So what we're really interested in is it has to fit within our themes. So I'll give one theme. One theme is pursuit of well-being. So say you came up with some idea to sell people customized vitamins. Instead of going into a confusing experience in a shop, you send me a little bag that says made for Lee or made for David, and that takes care of my health. So something that's under a theme, pursuit of well-being is a big one, and something that's a really sort of pretty ubiquitous pain point for the customer. And ideally it's something that the founder themselves has had a personal experience with. We don't have really hard data on that, but that's something anecdotally we see. If you're a father and you start, direct-to-consumer baby strollers, it's probably going to be a better product than if somebody else just kind of does it. So if we think that someone out there, you've got a product that's better for the customer, better for the world, and it does one of three things: lowers the price and creates value, improves the quality, or at least has the quality parity, and creates a great customer journey where none existed before. If you've got some mix of those three things and you're targeting consumers, we're interested.
Fantastic. And what's the best way to get in touch with you guys?
So you could just send us an email at ideafarmventures.com. We have like an inbox there. You can reach out to us. Idea Farm Ventures.
Idea Farm Ventures, David Bell.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure talking with you. And keep watching for more from Start Me Up Hong Kong Festival 2019. Don't forget to subscribe down below.